Well, the 2014 New York State Republican Convention is in the books, and as Scott will tell you, the favorite kind of conventions where you got no drama and no surprises. Although on TV, we like that. Now, as expected, the Westchester County Exec, Rob Astorino, is the party's nominee for governor, and after accepting the nomination, he spoke with our own Andrew Whitman.
Well, Rich, in 1992, Bill Clinton won the White House with the slogan, "It's the economy, stupid." And today, Rob Astorino is trying to borrow from that playbook. Astorino believes what he sees as the fiscal health of New York State is his ticket to Albany. In both his convention speech and our interview, he continued to pivot back to the economy, even as I asked him about his path to victory this November and social issues as well.
Same way we did that in 2009 when I was running for county executive. 30 points down. Incumbent had boatloads of money, high name ID. They said, "Rob who?" That's what their campaign was. And we had the right message, the right timing. We raised enough money to get our message out, and we won. And it would be the same thing this year. First of all, Andrew Cuomo has a record, and it's atrocious. You know, we are dead last 50th in all the wrong categories. Highest taxes, worst business climate, worst business outlook, economic outlook. We've got the most in education money we put in per pupil, and we're in the bottom half of results. And now we know the Anti-Corruption Commission has been corrupted, and it's filthy. And Andrew Cuomo may very well, because he's being investigated by the U.S. Attorney, may have, in fact, led to moving people out of the investigation and quashed subpoenas and directly involved himself in what was supposed to be and is an independent commission. So this state is going down the wrong track. There's no question about it. 400,000 New Yorkers have left. That doesn't sound like a winning record to me. It doesn't sound like a state in the win column. So we have the ideas to turn this state around. We have the message. I think the climate is right, and it's all I hear. Everywhere I go, it's all I hear. And you know what? Here's an interesting thing. Almost 50% of the total vote in a governor's race comes from upstate. It's not New York City, upstate. And upstate is tumbleweeds right now economically. They're doing very badly. And the one solution that would take them, you know, not to the promised land, but would certainly turn it around pretty quickly, is natural gas exploration, which this governor refuses to do. Basically the only governor in the United States that is not moving forward with this.
You are obviously going to try to play on the fiscal issues and the economy, the state of New York's economy, and you're trying to paint Andrew Cuomo as being problematic in that regard. Governor Cuomo is trying to define you on primarily social terms, social issue terms. Where your positions are, to be honest, further to the right than where the polls say the majority of New Yorkers are on issues like guns or on abortion or other social issues that do matter to people. How do you square that with voters and still get them to pull the lever for you, or whatever the system is on the ballot these days, given that your positions, that you are a social conservative and you're proud to call yourself that?
So in 2-1 Democrat Westchester, this was the playbook in 2009. It didn't work. We won big. They crossed off the year and put 2013 as our playbook. Let's attack them again on social issues. It didn't work. We won by 13 points. Now it's 2014. Let's do it again. Let's keep trying. You know, ultimately, people have their opinions. If you're talking about abortion, abortion's not going anywhere in New York State. It's been legal here for 44 years, 3 years before Roe v. Wade. Abortion's not going anywhere. Whatever my personal view is, and I am pro-life, is not going to make much of a difference in the state of New York. But what I won't do, and what is so radical and so different, by the way, of what the average New Yorker thinks, I will not expand it to the third trimester, which is what Andrew Cuomo wants to do. That is so radical and so out of step with New Yorkers.
You talked about your re-election for county executive last year, and in that election, the issue of guns and gun shows came up. Yeah. And you suggested, and I think to your credit, that's not really an issue, gun control or gun law, that a county executive has a lot of impact on. But a governor certainly does. And even on something like abortion, which you say is settled and isn't coming back, certainly it would be within the governor's purview to have a much greater influence on social matters that issue to people. So why are those social arguments from the left not valid in this case?
Because this is in Arkansas. We have a New York City-dominated, very liberal Democratic Assembly that would never pass something like that. So the reality is it's a boogeyman and a smokescreen, so he doesn't have to deal with the economics, which, of course, we know. put us dead last in the country in all the wrong categories. Him harping on social issues is not going to bring taxes down so people could actually stay here and work here. It's not going to bring the jobs back that have left because of his policies. So he's going to talk about that. It'll be the boogeyman. It's always been. But most people, you know what? They're going to look at, how do I get back to work? How does my grandma be able to live in her home because she's got to go back to work now to pay the property taxes? How does my son or daughter have a chance after college to find a job here? That's what people care about, and that's what I'm going to talk about, like I did in 09 and like I did in 13.
Just one more question on the social issue front, if I could. Obviously, you think that you can win the governor's mansion this fall. If in doing so, if everybody's prediction of a wave or a Republican-leaning election is true, pretty good chance that Republicans win the state Senate and would at least make inroads in the state assembly. You had a speaker at your dinner last night, Tom Corbett, who won under similar circumstances 4 years ago in Pennsylvania. He's now polling in the 20s because of what people perceive as an overreach on social issues, including voting rights, including abortion, including other labor unions. Again, the concern, you say it's all settled and that abortion isn't going to be relitigated in New York State. There are a lot of people who feel like that's a cornerstone issue, or that other social issues impact their daily lives.
The Andrew Cuomo campaign team. That's it. Most New Yorkers, this is not what they're thinking about. When they get on a bus to go to work or a train, or they're stuck in traffic, or they're worrying how they're going to pay the bills for their house, or someone just got laid off, will they find work, or the property taxes are due. That's what they're worried about. They're not worried every day, oh my God, is abortion going to be legal in New York? Come on, I mean, this is such a false argument, but it's their playbook. It's the only thing they know how to do because they can't win on the argument of why 400,000 New Yorkers have left, why more are leaving, why 41% in a recent Gallup poll, 41% of New Yorkers said if they could leave New York, they would. That is damning to the policies we now have. And so, if that's the way you want this state to go, if you want a dead economy upstate for a long time, very slow growth and extraordinarily high taxes in the Hudson Valley and Long Island, if you want Cuomo's Common Core to continue on and make it disastrous for our children, then you should vote for him. If you want changes, like I do, I'm a parent. My wife and I are choosing to stay here to fight because I have a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. Sheriff Moss has an 8-year-old son. We're here fighting for this state before it's too late because we are in a death spiral.
Not only is Astorino trailing in the polls by 30 points and expected to lose the fundraising battle, perhaps by tens of millions of dollars, he may also have another problem, the long reach of Andrew Cuomo in the Republican Party. There were surprisingly few Republican members of the state assembly or Senate at the convention this week, and several people told me that was because of fear of reprisals from the governor, something I asked the top Senate Republican, Long Island's Dean Skelos.
I don't believe there's any pressure. Our members make their individual decisions. We had session yesterday. There are some members here, and I'm sure there'll be others throughout the day. But the bottom line is we're all going to support the statewide ticket.
And do you think there's any concern about potential political retribution or pressure from the governor's office going forward if they were to make an appearance here?
Look, the governor will make his decisions. Each member makes a decision.
Now, today was not just the biggest day in the political career of Rob Astorino thus far. It was as well for Chemung County Sheriff Chris Moss, who addressed the convention as the nominee for lieutenant governor. Moss, who is little known statewide, made his name on one issue, his opposition to the SAFE Act. That's the gun control law passed after Newtown. I asked Moss why he opposes a law that so many others in law enforcement support.
Proper gun legislation should really be aimed, if we're looking at trying to stop a tragedy and we're going to enact gun legislation, let's target it towards where the problem is. It's keeping guns out of the hands of criminals, keeping weapons out of people who need mental health help, assistance. So basically, the SAFE Act is targeted at the wrong group of people, and that's my biggest complaint about it.
Law enforcement officials across the country, for the most part, have been seemingly overwhelmingly calling for some form of gun control, at least trying to balance the scales a little bit and put some of the advantage back in the hands of law enforcement who find themselves outgunned from time to time. What is it specifically about the SAFE Act that doesn't do that, and why not do anything possible to at least reduce the number of guns for fear that they might slip into the hands of criminals?
I haven't seen any statistical information that indicates that the SAFE Act has made New York any safer. I have seen some statistics that basically say that, crimes that you committed that may have been an E felony or now a D felony and so forth, but for new arrests attributed to the SAFE Act, I'm not aware of them. And again, when you create legislation to keep guns off the streets, wouldn't you want to gear that legislation towards maybe tougher penalties for people who are caught with guns? If you or I have a gun at home and somebody burglarizes our house and somebody takes the gun, they're going to get the weapon anyway. But I don't think the SAFE Act is keeping people from accessing guns.